Good afternoon, everybody. This is the PODC TV Hill Report. I'm Bert Eiler. My co-host is Jim Fotis. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Bert. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to do the Hill Report and learn about what's going on the Hill since you were up there yesterday.
That's correct. But first, let's try and get into some of the current events of what's going on. With DHS and the budget, is there any update on that, Jim? Or are they still battling it back and forth?
You know, they're still battling it back and forth, Bert. They've got, many fixes to keep ICE in the airports and trying to keep the airports going so people aren't stuck. But they just can't come together on DHS about funding the Border Patrol, funding the rest of ICE, and keeping people, safe and, returning illegals that came in during the Biden administration back to where they came from. So I think it's going to be a while. Nothing may happen until after the Iran war is settled. And, of course, that's another problem that we're having. And we're waiting for something to happen there. Again, President Trump has given them another 3 to 5 days, and we're waiting to see what they do. But they have no government. They're basically battling each other as to who's going to be in charge, and there may not be a settlement. But the president's probably doing the right thing, giving them a chance to get it together. We'll see what happens, and I know they don't want the vice president going over there until they're ready to settle.
Yeah, because he was supposed to go over there. Have you heard? Was he already en route, or were they holding him back until
they held him back until there's going to be a settlement? It would just be to have him there several days in Pakistan. They feel that it would be too much of a security risk.
Well, I know some other current events, and I'm sure you'll have something to say about this one, dealing with Virginia and the gerrymandering. I'm still living in Virginia. You're, in Florida now. But I went and voted against it, and by a short margin, 51 to 49, about changing the district's borderlines, the Democrats won. What do you think that will do for Virginia? Do you think it will benefit the Democrats? Some people are saying it may not. It may backfire on them.
Now, there are a lot of parts to it. I believe that it will benefit them at first, but it may backfire on them as we go forward into the election years and head towards the presidency. But it wasn't only Virginia that this happened. It happened in Texas. It happened in South Carolina. A lot of the districts are going to be changed. And right now, even in Florida, since we've had many people from the north, from New York, move down here, there's going to be a possible change in the districts here. I know that DeSantis is trying to stop that from happening, so we'll see what happens. But gerrymandering is one of the things that we've tried to stop, try to make the districts so that everything is equal. And right now, what happened yesterday will give the power to the legislature to change the districts rather than a separate committee, which has been doing it, which was fairly stocked with both sides, Democrats and Republicans. But now, since the legislature in Virginia is basically Democrat, they can set it up that all these districts that were once heavily Republican, they can switch them so that more votes are Democratic in those districts. So it could be a rough time,
right?
Especially at the end of this year.
Right. Now, don't they? I mean, I think the fight's still on. They can still take this to the state Supreme Court and get a decision on that, correct? Or is it because they voted it's done with?
Yes.
I'm not too familiar.
Yes, they can. But as you know, the governor of Virginia, who ran on a ticket that she was moderate, even more conservative, has moved all the way to the left.
That is true. That is crazy. I mean, what more can you do? I mean, and that kind of brings us to what we're doing, fighting up on the Hill.
Exactly. And I know, Bert, you're up there Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know I'm in Florida, but I'm up there with you. I think you're doing a great job. And, we're fighting for law enforcement, and we're watching Second Amendment issues. We're trying to watch everything that would be a constitutional issue, and more are coming up.
Improving the Police Care Act was passed into law, and what that is allowing federal support for local and state departments to get support for like trauma kits. So officers can immediately help, themselves or victims that have seriously injured, could be bleeding out. Trauma kits have, your tourniquet. They'll have some of that clotting agent in some gauzes. So that just kind of shows you, when you have bipartisan support, what they can do and what they can get passed.
That's right. And we need more of that bipartisan support. We have to stop fighting amongst each other, get bipartisan support, get some of that good law enforcement legislation passed. And that will help police throughout the country. But as you know, and this is something that's been bothering me, Mandami in New York, the people the police officers that do this transit and the subways and the bridges and all of that, they get about 5,000 hours of overtime, which is needed because they don't have enough men right now, and he's cutting that. So once again, you see what happens when you go to a society where they're trying to take money from someplace where it's needed. Law enforcement, as you say many times, without law enforcement and without laws, there's chaos, and that's what's going to happen in New York. They need to keep law enforcement funded. They need to let law enforcement do their job, or else New York City is just going to go to hell.
You're right. You're taking money away. You're saying it's overtime. Okay, well then hire very qualified, people to come in and work, and you wouldn't have that.
Exactly.
That's why everybody's leaving, right? Yeah. Especially law enforcement. If you're not going to let them do their job, and we've always talked about that, it's not all roses and daisies. You have to, you're going to have to make those tough decisions. And that's why we're up on the Hill fighting for legislation to allow officers to do their job.
Right.
Yeah, and people not going to like it.
And back to the legislation we're talking about, once again, a lot of these small departments don't have enough money to buy the equipment that you're talking about. We have to remember that most departments in the U.S. are smaller than 20 men. So you've got to realize, between salaries and benefits, they can't buy this equipment. So the government helping them, giving them, and even giving them surplus equipment is extremely important.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that we'll be talking about later is HR 7210, which is Fuel Your Force Act. This past week, I had the great opportunity to work with Henry, who is on our podcast on NCPD. He also does the filming. And the last 2 days we were up on Capitol Hill, and we put a piece together for Fuel the Force Act, which will be shown a little bit later. But there again, that is just helping with retention. And hopefully everybody who's viewing it will will agree and get to their congressmen, congresswomen, and senators to let's get this passed. We got Police Week coming. I think we have some pretty good bills that are in the pipeline. It's just getting the word out to get the members of Congress to honestly get off their ass and let's sign some of this, because law enforcement is bipartisan, period.
Yeah, it is. And we need to keep it that way. Law enforcement throughout the country is being hurt in every city where they're allowing these illegal aliens to reside in houses that are, people that have come here in the past, and they may be good people. But remember, if you're illegal and you have an illegal alien in your house that had come over and ICE comes there, you're going to go with them back to wherever you came from.
Yeah, and going back to this week on the Hill, just to let you know, Jim, some of the other things that I had the opportunity to do is, since Police Week is actually just a couple weeks away, we're reaching out to members of Congress to do interviews and basically ask, why do they support law enforcement? What does Police Week mean to them? And if there was a bill or anything else they'd like to say, to speak on it. And I did have a great opportunity to speak with Congressman Troy Nels from Texas, career law enforcement, been a representative for quite a while, and he's retiring after this year. His twin brother will be taking his spot, but we had a really good conversation about those issues, and those will be presented in a later podcast, along with Congresswoman Virginia Fox out of North Carolina. And she was awesome too, champion of law enforcement. She actually introduced the qualified immunity bill with Congressman Van Orten out of Wisconsin after Senator Congressman Banks, once he became Senator Banks and left, they needed somebody to introduce it, and the two of them reintroduced it, and she gave her opinion on why it's so important to get this passed, and I hope everybody listens to what she has to say. She's really a champion of that. And then Congressman Nels has the National Law Enforcement Remembrance Support and Outreach Act. That is providing funding for the National Law Enforcement Museum to help promote outreach, mental health for law enforcement, and outreach to the community. And that bill right now has 124 co-sponsors on the House side, and that's bipartisan. So I don't see why that one definitely won't get passed during Police Week. If once it goes into committee, there's no reason for it to not come out, because I know they already found where have the funding, so it just needs to get through.
I agree with you, and everyone who follows the PODC TV should be excited to watch Bert up on the Hill with these individual legislators, interviewing them, see how they really feel about law enforcement, and he does give them the hard questions when he's up there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim. I mean, that's what we need everybody to do is, get the word out. Call your call your representative, call your senator, have them support those bills. If you would like more information about what we're doing, you can go to our website at www.policeofficersdefensecoalition.com. On there, we have a scorecard. We let you know where the representatives and senators rate on law enforcement issues. We also have an all-star lineup, and those are off members and senators that have 100% voting record for law enforcement issues, and they've signed our American Law Enforcement Pledge. So if you're watching, please go to our website. If you want to send us information, let us know how we're doing, or if you have any questions, you can go to info@policeofficersdefensecoalition.com, and please, we'd love to hear from you.
Exactly.
and moving forward, Jim, the fight is on. We're not going to stop. I think, like I said, Police Week will be really good for us. We have some really good interviews coming up, and everybody's going to be real happy, I think, with what we're doing. And that's kind of where we're at. And I'll push it back to you, Jim. I mean, do you have any follow up to legislation or anything else dealing with?
I think we should talk a little bit about the Supreme Court decision this week.
Okay, I forgot about that one. Go ahead. Why don't you talk about that?
Which is a very important Supreme Court decision. It was by the National Association of Police, and it also included the Police Officers Defense Committee, which Bert and I are privileged to run, and we've run that for the last 6 years, Bert? 7 years?
19, yeah, for
PODC,
the coalition.
Police Officers Defense Coalition. So PODC, Bert is up there representing PODC, and this amicus brief was put in and basically what it does is that police officers use physical force and weight to not only apprehend but to keep the bad guys down, and it's compression. The Supreme Court said that there is no problem as long as they're trained, and you can use compression moves like laying on somebody, sitting on somebody, kneeling on somebody, and that is perfectly legal. You are covered by qualified immunity, which I was excited to see because, again, the Supreme Court, in a manner of speaking, is codifying qualified immunity, which Bert and I have been pushing for years. And Bert, do you want to add something to that?
No, I just think it just shows that over the years, the Supreme Court is always, comes out with qualified immunity, and seems like it has, common sense decision making when it comes to qualified immunity. But if we don't codify it, you're going to see more and more officers being sued. There's a case right now. I think we're going to got to research a little bit out of Chesterfield, Virginia, where an officer shot a individual that was burglarizing houses and was wielding, I believe, a hatchet, and the officer shot him. And right now, I don't think there's any criminal charges, but the court ruled that he didn't have qualified immunity, so he can be sued personally. I don't get that, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, Jim.
And the fact is, qualified immunity is so simple. If you're doing something the right way, within the purview of your job, within your training, then you are covered completely in what you're doing. Now, that officer was protecting himself and protecting other people from this person that was attacking with an axe or hatchet.
Yeah. So moving forward, we'll have to see what it is. But until next time, I'm Bert Eiler with PODC. This is the Hill Report, bringing the Hill to you. And until next time, thank you very much, and God bless.
It's America.